What are the expectations? Going from the Big 12 all the way into the Blue Bloods of arguably the toughest conference in all of college football, the SEC. Is it the same expectations as they were in the Big 12, contending for SEC titles and contending for national championships? Or do things change going into this year? What's going on, ladies and gentlemen? My name is Lucas Hill of SEC Unfiltered. You can check us out anywhere you get your podcast over at secunfiltered.com. You can check it out on Spotify, Apple Music. Doesn't matter. We're everywhere. Also, check us out on every social media platform. We are on Instagram, Facebook, X, TikTok. Also, remember, hit the like, share, and subscribe, and turn on the bell notifications for every time you're going to get notified for a video from us here at SEC Unfiltered. And we want to thank our good friends over at MYBOOKIE for sponsoring this video. We know that the NBA postseason is officially done, but MLB, you got some golfing tournaments that are going around. Wherever you want to do, you can bet from anywhere, anytime, just so you never miss a shot to cash in on a play with MYBOOKIE. It's more than just a sports book. It's all about the buzzer beaters, the underdog upsets, and it's a community to share in all the sweats. So give yourself a head start today and use code SECU at sign up to receive a special limited time bonus when you sign up and make your first deposit. That's mybookie.ag. That's code SECU. Bet anything, anytime, anywhere. Only with MYBOOKIE. Must be 21 or older to use. Not available in all states. Gambling problem, call 1-800-GAMBLER. That's 1-800-GAMBLER. So a couple of days ago, Steve Sarkisian talked about the bullseye that is on Texas's back whenever he was on an interview with Greg McElroy on Always College Football. Whenever you look at how Texas is faring going into this year, you can argue by many that this is going to be the most talented team that Steve Sarkisian has put on the field. They return 7 starters on offense and defense. You bring back arguably the best quarterback going into this year in Quinn Ewers. You bring back a big-time offensive line group that's going to be very good. You got Kelvin Banks, who could be a top 5 pick going into next year. You got Jake Majors, who could also be a first-round pick. Not only that, but you're bringing back 2 more offensive linemen as well. So you got Texas and LSU that could be fighting for the best offensive line in the Southeastern Conference. And not to mention that, you also bring back 5 guys on defense. That includes Ethan Burke and Baron Sorrell. Now, the biggest question for me that I have for Texas is this. How will you improve your secondary? I know you got Andrew Mukuba. You got a better Malik Muhammad who emerged at the end of the year. You got a returning starter in J.D. Barron that was fantastic for you last year. So, but they're still, these 2, Muhammad and Barron, both were still a part of a team that struggled in pass defense. This is a team that is still fairly young. They don't have a lot of experience. They don't have a lot of returning starters that is going to be able to lead this group. And it's going to be a struggle with them early on. There's no mistake about it. They got the pass defense down whenever you got to close to the end of Big 12 play, when you played Texas Tech and when you played Oklahoma State. But there was still a lot of flaws, especially when you go up against high-profile teams, when you're playing Oklahoma, when you're playing Kansas State, when you played Washington in the Sugar Bowl. You got torched by Michael Penix and this elite receiving group. How are you going to do the same thing against Georgia, against Oklahoma again, against Texas A&M, who I think could be a surprise this year. How are you going to do all of that? Because this team is still going to have a lot of question marks. There's no doubt about that. If I'm Texas, I'm holding the brakes on saying they're back yet, because the last 10 years have not been kind to the Longhorns. You talk about the end of the Mac Brown era, the Charlie Strong era, when everybody thought after the Notre Dame game they were back, and then they end up, I think, 4-8. Then you go back to 2019 when Sam Mellinger said that they're back, and they proceeded to fall flat on their face the next 2 years and go 5-7, eventually in Sark's second year. So I don't know what to expect from Texas this year. They do have a solid roster. This could be the most talented roster in all of college football. But stars get you beat. Stars are going to end up costing you, because you can see a 5-star, all Big Ten or all Big 12 or all ACC on somebody's resume. But when they get into a new conference and they fall flat on their face, that's exactly what I mean. So I'm looking at their schedule right now. You got to go to the Big House. That's going to be a big test right there. Early test for you. I don't know how they're going to fare. I do think it's going to be close. I think Michigan's going to try and ground and pound at them. I think they're going to try and basically dare Texas to tackle them in the open field with Donovan Edwards. And I think that they will be better in the passing game as well. But the biggest thing for Texas is you can't get into a shootout with them. That's going to be a battle that I think they could win. But knowing how Michigan's defense has performed, it could also be disaster for them if they don't get this secondary fixed up right, and if they don't learn how to tackle properly in the open field. That's one test that they're going to have when it comes to the month of October. Then you get the first big test going into October. And by the way, I meant September. For that month. Going into the month of October, you got the Red River rivalry. This could be a shootout. And we'll get to Texas later on in the video. Or we'll get to Oklahoma later on in the video. This just might be another shootout. I'm not going to lie to you. It may not be 55-49 back 2 years ago in the Cotton Bowl, but this is going to be another big-time game like it was last year. Whoever wins this game is going to be in the driver's seat in the SEC. They're going to be the front runner to get into the college football playoff, because you need a big-time win. For Oklahoma, this could be it for them, because after that, they got to go to Missouri. They got to go to Ole Miss. They play at home against Alabama, and they're going to Tiger Stadium. That could be they have a much tougher schedule than what Texas has right now. Then the very next week, Georgia comes to town. I do think Georgia comes in and beats Texas, because I'm just being honest with you. I don't see Texas passing against a good secondary like Georgia has, and their front four is dominant. They're going to get after Quinn Ewers this year. Then you go into the month of November. Now, looks can be deceiving. It's like dating, you know? When you look at Florida, they are hot this year. Billy Napier's butt is on fire. If he doesn't pull a big win this year, and I get that Florida has the toughest schedule of anybody in all of college football. But make no mistake about it. I think Florida can come in, go to Darrell K. Memorial, and shock this Texas team. I think Graham Mertz is an underrated passer. I know that they lost Trevor Etienne. They got a capable backup. They got a capable runner. And I know that they will be good. I know that they have a great opportunity to do something awesome. You have LJ McCray, who could be a dominant freshman defensive lineman. There's a lot of big time talent on this Florida team that I think can upset Texas. You got Kentucky at home. That could be a deceiving game with Brock Vandagriff at quarterback. But we still don't know what Kentucky's offense is going to look like with him. And then you go in the Lone Star Showdown. First time that they've been playing since 2011. It's going to be intense. It's going to be a fun rivalry. Finally, we get a rivalry like this back. An in-Texas rivalry. Oh, that is going to be a sold-out crowd at Kyle Field. Make no mistake about it. I think Texas A&M could pull off an upset too. It's going to be close. Texas can either be one of two things to me. I think they could run the table. I think they could go undefeated. They have the talent to do it. But like I mentioned already, stars get you beat. Well, I saw in the spring game, they struggled with open field tackling. If they don't get that fixed in the summertime and going into fall camp, this is going to be a struggle. This is going to be disastrous for them because everybody will have hyped them up for nothing. This will be nothing more than 2022 Texas A&M whenever they were favored to go, I think, win 10 or 11 games and go to the college football playoff. They were expected to be a national championship contender. Again, with Desmond Howard's absurd college football playoff predictions at the beginning of the year, that obviously didn't even come close to coming true. Now, going to the Oklahoma Sooners. This should be a fairly easy schedule up until the last week of October and almost all of November. You get Tennessee at home. That shouldn't be a problem for them. You got Texas at the Cotton Bowl. You beat them last year, but you got a young quarterback who's going to be entering his first year as a full-time starter in Jackson Arnold. We'll see how he performs in a big-time situation. He has weapons around him to do it. He's got a Purdue transfer in Deion Burks, who's going to be a big-time X factor in the SEC. This is going to be interesting to say the least, to see what Oklahoma's offense can do with Seth Luttrell now becoming the full-time offensive coordinator. Their defense should be very good. They should be a much improved defense. You got Danny Stutzman, who could be a Butkus Award finalist this year. You've got a brand new defensive coordinator who's going to come in, and Zach Alley, who's from ULM, who's from Jacksonville State. And by the way, Jacksonville State was a dominant defense last year. Make no mistake about it. But going back to their schedule, you have Tennessee at home. That'll be a fun little game. The last time that they met was, I think, 15, I want to say. But and that ended up being a very good game between Josh Dobbs and Baker Mayfield. Afterwards, obviously, Texas in the Cotton Bowl. At home against South Carolina and Lenora Sellers in his first game. Then there's where we get to the gauntlet. You go to Ole Miss. You go to Vaught Hemingway. Ole Miss, again, should be a top 10 team. They'll be very, very good this year. That defense is going to be the best in the nation. That Land Shark defense is awesome. Then you go to Missouri. At Missouri. That could be a high-scoring affair with Luther Burden and Brady Cook getting into a showdown with Deion Burks and Jackson Arnold. You're at home against Alabama and Kalen DeBoer in his first year. This could be interesting. This could be a really, really good team for Alabama that not a whole lot of people are talking about this year, simply because Nick Saban isn't there anymore. It's Kalen DeBoer. Kalen DeBoer's team is still going to be very, very good. You got Deontay Lawson, who's going to be a Lott Trophy finalist this year. You also got Malachi Moore, who could be a very good player. You got Jalen Milroe, who's going to be a Heisman Trophy winner, or finalist, I should say. You got Justice Haynes, has a lot of potential for him. Played as a true freshman last year. Could evolve into the great group of running backs that Alabama has put on the field in the last few years. You have a great bunch of receivers that have come in. You bring in Jeremy Bernard, who came with Washington, had a great season, 419 yards, 2 touchdowns on 34 catches. Then you got Kobe Prentice, who's just dying to break out this year. Then you have Kendrick Law, who was from Captain Shreve, going to have a breakout year this year. Because Milroe's going to be a much more polished quarterback this year as well. So that could be a very close one. And then you go to Baton Rouge and play LSU. For both of these teams, I do think they had the opportunity to go play for a college football playoff. But the question is, how will their respective defenses do? For Texas, it's their secondary. For Oklahoma, I could say the same thing, and their defensive line. Also with Oklahoma, I would consider their offense. They have a lot of weapons, but they got a brand new quarterback. We don't know how he's going to really do. He has potential. There's no quote about that. But there's no telling what their ceiling could be. I do think that both of these teams have a lot of potential. I do think that they will have an opportunity to showcase what they can do in 2024. But the biggest concern for me is the defense and a young quarterback still improving. Hasn't played an actual game against another opponent in conference play, I should mention. We'll see when they go to the SEC. Could be in for a rude awakening for them, but at the same time, could be in for a remarkable season for the Oklahoma Sooners and the Texas Longhorns.